Coach Pena here for the Football Engineer Podcast, and today we got Christian Briseno from Cal State Dominguez Hills from Downey, California. How are you doing today, bro?
Yeah, everything good, man. Blessed for the opportunity, obviously, to join this podcast with you, and pretty excited, to answer your questions and stuff. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Perfect, bro. Tell me a little bit about what a day in the life looked like as a D2 player at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Yeah, well, first off, I want to just shout out to my coaches, Eddie Soto, Patrick Tenorio, Edward Garcia, Jimmy Obleda, Patrick Tenorio, already said him, and Hunter Stewart, and Jimmy Obleda. Obviously, super blessed to have them as coaches. But the typical lifestyle was wake up usually like around, well, it just varied actually because we would typically have like certain days where we'd have to do gym and stuff. So on those days, it would be 5:50 or 6 a.m. wake up, arrive roughly to the gym like at 6:45. Coach Chow would usually be the one taking in charge of those exercises, and we would do like weights, plyometric workouts, sometimes some runs. It just depended on the day. We'd be done by like 6:45. We'd have like a 15-minute grace period to go to the athletic training room and do whatever we needed to like be prepared for like the training sessions with the coaches. So we could do like we could do stem, we could do resistance bands, we could do Normatec. They would do massages. The athletic trainers was like Julian, Alexis at the time, and like some other people as well. And then obviously we'd go to the field. The coaches it was Eddie Soto, Edward Garcia, Patrick Tenorio, Jimmy Obleda, Hunter Stewart, and then recently added was Alan Solorio for the goalkeepers, and Roberto as well. Shout out Roberto as well. But yeah, we do. It would always do dynamic and static stretching in the beginning, and then we immediately get into passing patterns. That was like the main thing at Dominguez Hills that I wasn't used to like training with other teams. It was straight passing patterns. And there was an expectation at Dominguez Hills. It was like, hey, if you can't accomplish this here in practice, what makes you think we're going to put you in the game and trust you for 90 minutes? So if you didn't excel in those passing patterns, you would not get any minutes on the game. It's like coach would say too. You have to accept your role. So if like you're one of those players that can be trusted, you're going to be expected to like hold that standard at the game. And if you're not functioning in practice, obviously you're not getting minutes. You're not being that person on the bench who's, talking trash behind all the coaches' backs and the players. No, you're there to support the teammates and stuff, And then we'd immediately get into like more game realistic scenario games. So we do like 4v3s, 5v3s, flight changes. We typically sometimes do like games as well. So like 11v11. Obviously like the starting 11 playing against like you could say like the Pomonas, the LA. So we would mimic Cal State LA and Cal State Pomona's formation and the way they press and the way they attack. So we practice, hey, how are we gonna defend them? How are we gonna attack them? What are their weak points? What are their strong points? And we would mimic that, right? And then typically at the end also too, we do set pieces, so free kicks, corner kicks, whoever was on PKs, we would practice that if it was like an important game. And sometimes we even do 11v0. So that was literally just a training drill where we'd start the ball with the goalkeeper, we'd play out the back and mimic how we're going to go forward. Does that make sense? So center back, left back, winger, six, push the point of attack, everyone goes forward and we finish. And that's what we would do. So, yeah. And then obviously once training session's over, little team meeting, to obviously summarize the sessions. We'd also get into prayer as well, which is something I was really blessed about. Shout out Gavin Brummer. He was the one who actually introduced that like concept to the team, because he was a very religious man. So yeah, we'd pray. We'd go to the training room again. We'd do ice baths, same thing, Normatec, stem, all that good stuff. And then we'd go to class, so go to class, finish up class, and then whatever you had obviously after class, either go home, work, all the boys would do that stuff, or just hang out as boys, at the houses that we would have. So yeah, that was a day in the life. Mm-hmm.
And then what was your recruiting journey like, and how did you choose the Dominguez Hills program?
Yeah, my recruiting process was pretty interesting, So I'm very blessed to have my dad, because my dad was the one who kind of pushed me to continue to play soccer, because obviously I was part of that recruiting process where COVID happened, right? So everything went downhill, and then that's when MLS Next became a thing. I was currently playing for a team called Total Football Academy, but honestly, the team went downhill because all the players left, and then the coaches couldn't find like a sustainable facility to train. So I quit soccer. Yeah, I quit soccer for roughly like 6-8 months, roughly around that time frame. I was just working. And I told my dad, that I wanted to get back into soccer. And he told me like, okay, I'm gonna help you out. So he contacted some coaches that I used to have in the past. and he came across a team called Fram, right? So
Okay.
Fram during COVID actually beat, yeah, they beat our team TFA like 7-0, and these kids were like 2 years younger than us, right? So I was like, yeah, sure, like let me check out this team. So I check out the team. The coach was named Coach Oleg, right? Oleg Shovkovi. And he took me under his wing. He was like, no, I'm gonna make your kid a better player. He has potential. Just bring him around me. So I went with him. I committed to him, and yeah, in less than 2 months, I got like roughly like 8 offers in 1 month. By like D1 schools, and also D2 schools. So I was really blessed. And I chose Dominguez Hills though because Eddie Soto was the one that was constantly calling me, pushing, being like, hey, what's your decision? Like, do you have any questions? Um, Look at my background. I used to coach at Galaxy, Long Beach, UCLA, San Francisco. Like I was part of all these big winning teams, and that's one thing that I focused on, his background. Everywhere he went, he won. And me, I come from that environment. I come from a winning environment, so I wanted to stick around that. So yeah, I trusted his program, and obviously, we got what 3 league championships, 1 CCAA championship, and 3 NCAA appearances. So I was just blessed, to be under his wing and for him to trust me. So yeah.
And then we all sort of face adversity and tough moments. What was your toughest moment in college, and what did it teach you?
Yeah, it was to genuinely be grateful for the minutes that you get on the field. That was me my sophomore year. Because my freshman year, you could say I was a rotational player. It's one of those roles that I accepted where my coach told me, hey, you're gonna come in 20 minutes, you're gonna do your work, get off, and then come back another 20 minutes. So I did that my freshman year. I was happy because obviously we won league. We made it to the CCAA playoff finals. We lost to LA, unfortunately, and then NCAA was unfortunate as well. Coming into my sophomore year, I'm coming in, super confident, excited, to start the season, and it completely doesn't go my way, and I'm completely checked out, and it was completely my fault, as an athlete because I wasn't taking care of my body correctly. I was overworking myself at a job that I had here at a restaurant. I wasn't sleeping correctly. I was probably making dumb decisions, and it was affecting me on the field. So when it converted into the game and into my minutes, I took it personal, and I reacted very immaturely, and when I told my coaches, like, hey, like what's going on, they were straight up to me, like, hey, there's something different about you. You need to change. You have to lock in, and try to overstep the obstacle that you're going through. So I had to suffer that whole sophomore year. I only played like maybe I don't know like 200 minutes out of 1,200 minutes, which is nothing. So I come junior year fit, well prepared, confident, and honestly, my junior leading to it was kind of the same result. I was like, hey, what's going on? I think my coaches probably just lost trust in me, and we weren't getting the results that we wanted in preseason. So I personally went to my coach's office, and I kind of gave him like a real talk. I kind of sold myself. I was like, hey, coach, I genuinely believe that I'm not getting the opportunity that I feel that I deserve, especially on the training field. Like I'm doing my job, please give me an opportunity, just one game, one game into the league, because we're playing against Stanislaus and Chico that day, right? Or that weekend. I told him, play me, give me those minutes that I deserve, and I'm gonna show you what I got. And he told me like, no, we already have you on the starting lineup. We're gonna start you. Just prove to us, do your job. And yeah, I excelled in my performances. I scored against Chico. I go into the stadium game versus San Bernardino. We played San Bernardino in my stadium game last year. I scored a very important goal right there as well to tie the game. And then obviously we get into the playoffs and stuff. I'm doing my job, and yeah, I became a close to 70 to 80-minute player, and I accepted my role. I did my job as a striker and as a center attacking mid, and we had a very successful year, So yeah, I think my sophomore year was my changing point, to actually accept like, hey, you're wrong. You have to eat healthy, you have to sleep well, stop working, and just focus on soccer. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And then what was key in your development as a young player that led to your successes today?
I think surrounding myself around the right environment and the right people. I felt like coming into Dominguez Hills, I wasn't as open. I was very closed off, like kind of just training, going home, working, hanging with my family. But you really do have to spend time with your teammates, with your coaches, go outside with them to build that chemistry and that connection, and it translates into the field very, very well, So I focused my junior year and my senior year, to actually, go to the soccer house, hang out with the boys, hang out with them outside of the field. We'd go play golf, we'd go play pool table with the friends, maybe go to a restaurant, have some food, and yeah, I'd also look at film. So one thing that I didn't do my freshman year, my sophomore year, I would not look at film. I would look at how we were gonna play that game. So they'd send us a video. I'd watch that video, only do it like during game day, but I wouldn't study it the night before. I wouldn't. So my junior year and my senior year, I actually like took my time to like actually study my role as a player on the film, right? So I'd see, okay, if I'm a center attacking man, I'm gonna run to the left back gets the ball, I'm gonna do that job. If they're building out from the back, I'm gonna stick to the six. If we're attacking, I'm gonna make sure I go behind that second post. I actually started to focus on all those things. And I felt like it improved my game a lot. And also too, just I like to say, train like if you're a bench player, or train like if you don't have that starting position. Even though I'm a starter, I'm gonna still train like if someone's already above me. Because I have to have that expectation for myself and keep pushing myself. So yeah, I think it was all just mental as well. And obviously just having the right coaches, to talk to depend on. Yeah, I felt like that played a huge factor to my development for sure. Mm-hmm.
And then what advice would you have for a young player who's trying to replicate your success?
Yeah, just don't give up, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot of moments in college where people mentally check out, and it's really important that you actually reach out to friends, because obviously I went through that rough point at one point. I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to, but I was just doing it to myself. I wasn't verbally going out to people expressing the way that I felt, and expressing to my coaches as well, because they are the people at the end of the day who dictate how many minutes you get in the CCAA, So I genuinely went to my coaches, and I told them, like, hey, I'm struggling through this, I'm feeling this way. I feel like I'm not getting my opportunity, and they gave me like solutions as to how I can overcome those problems, and same thing with my friends, like, hey, like, be honest with me, like, how did I do in this game? What did you think that I could have done better? And hearing their advice, I actually took it to heart, and like I would study my film and see the moments where they said I messed up, and I would study and I would try my best to like not duplicate that mistake ever again, So for that, I would tell like freshmen, like for sure do that. On top of that, you have to take care of your body. Taking care of your body, I think, is the number one thing in soccer, because respectfully, right? If you're drinking underage, if you are eating out every single day, you're not having a diet, you're not hydrating, you're not getting your protein intake, it's going to translate into the game very, very, like, you're going to notice it, you're going to run 15 minutes against Cal State LA, Cal State Pomona in those intense games, and you're going to be drained, you're not going to be prepared for it. So yeah, I feel like what's it called? Health is a big one. And also to sleep, because obviously a lot of us, we're addicted to this. We're addicted to our phones, So we like to spend a lot of time on the phones watching TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, and it's okay to have that solo time. But once it hits 9, 10, max 11 p.m., go to sleep, Don't pass 11 p.m. because if you only get 5-6 hours of sleep, it's gonna result in practice, and then you're not gonna get any playing time. So yeah, just have good habits, have a good routine.
Yeah, that's great advice. And then speaking of routines, do you have like a pregame routine that you go to, or a way to prepare for a match?
Yes. So always in the morning, it's so typically like if games are like on a Friday, but I'm gonna make it seem like it was a Sunday game, right? So
Okay.
Sunday was always early morning church for me. I'm a very religious person, so I go to my Catholic church here around the corner. Afterwards, I would hydrate. I would try to do like 40 ounces of water. I'd cook 3 eggs, any type of protein. It could be chicken, beef, some veggies, and then I would do a protein shake, right? So I do a protein shake with like strawberries, bananas, some electrolytes, creatine, all that good stuff, And then maybe for like 30 minutes, I would watch film, to see like, oh, who's the starting lineup, how are we gonna come out? And then I would do a pregame stretch in my garage, So I do like activation warm ups with resistance bands, static stretching only, like trying to stretch out anything that felt sore that I'm obviously need important for the game. And then I eat a really big lunch. So if my game
Okay.
was like at 7 p.m., I'd probably eat like around 1 or 2, right? I'd eat a really big lunch. So I'd either do chicken, rice, and veggies, or I would go to like to a Mediterranean spot, because that's something that my coaches put me on. Mediterranean food is really good, so I love it. So I'll do that. And then roughly like an hour and a half before my game, like when we're going to go to the locker room, I drink a bottle of coconut water. So it's like natural electrolytes that your body needs. So I would drink that. And then obviously talk in the locker room about how we're going to come out, mentally prepare ourselves. And then, 50 minutes we have to warm up on the field. I'm just constantly drinking water. And then, yeah, game day in. And then my friends would give me Vaporu. I would put it right here on my nose, on my throat, and on my chest, just in case like I'm having issues breathing on the field. And yeah, pretty much it. That was my routine.
Perfect. And then I know you do some private training on the side, some coaching. What's the biggest mistake you see young players make
Yes, sir.
in their development process?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest mistake that I've seen is that they're not confident in themselves, and I feel like they let their mistakes get to their heads way too easily. I feel like
Yeah,
players are very afraid to make mistakes, and I think that's the biggest factor in soccer that's going to make you a better player, making mistakes. Like you don't even understand the amount of times that I've missed free kicks, penalties, one-on-ones, gave crappy passes, just to get to where I was at. And I felt like if my reaction was different in those moments, I'd be a different player. I'd be a bench player. I'd be a nobody, respectfully. But yeah, I'm very cold hearted. Like even though I gave a bad mistake, even though I missed a one-on-one, I didn't let that convert like into the next one. You get what I mean? I like to tell my players, hey, you should be blessed that you have another opportunity in my session. Like I gave you a ball, you missed the goal, but guess what? There's 10 more balls behind me, and you have 10 more opportunities to make that goal. So go for it. Like shake it off, get into the next session, and same thing. Practice like if you're a bench player. So you're practicing as if someone is above you. So practice at the maximum level that you can. So yeah, I think that's one mistake that my players usually do.
there's lots of trainers out there. What separates you from the pack or makes you different from other trainers?
Absolutely. I think it's my experience, so I've always been coached under very highly educated coaches in the soccer world, so like obviously Eddie Soto, he's top scorer at Cal State Fullerton, for D1. He's obviously coached in many different D1, D2 environments, also pro as well. Also with my other coach, Jimmy Obleda, I've been under his wing since I was in Fullerton Rangers as a little kid. Like I think it was like 10 or 11. And he obviously went on to go coach pro at Chattanooga Red Wolves, and also went to Uruguay, to get his coaching license out there as well. So very highly experienced coaches right there. Roberto too, obviously comes from, or he went to LMU D1 as well, and he comes from Mexico as well. So that's another experience as well. I feel like being under their wing taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about being humble, being having adversity, trusting your process, accepting your role, and also too just I feel like the drills that they made us do was like it was very, very demanding. I'm not gonna lie, very demanding.
Yeah.
To the point where like obviously like I injured myself at points, because of how hard I worked. So I felt like that mentality that they built into my head, I'm translating it into my athletes. I tell them specifically like, hey, I'm not gonna be an easy coach. I'm not gonna be super nice. I'm not gonna be your friend. I tell them like that. I'm not your friend on your field. I'm your coach. Once our session is over, I'm your friend. But if we're on the field, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get the best out of you. Does that make sense? So if you're going rep after rep and you're messing up, I'm going to make sure I stay here until you actually get that drill correct, And if you have questions, I tell them all the time, hey, ask me questions. Don't be afraid. If you're telling me, hey, should I use my right foot, my left foot, I'll specifically go to you. I'll twist my body and I'll tell you, hey, open hips, left foot, right foot, scan your shoulders, And I like to do a lot of game realistic scenarios drills, So I specifically look at my film that I've had in the past, with Dominguez Hills. Okay, cool. I'm coming down the wing. I cut inside. I give a cross. Or I'm going down the wing. I do a scissor chop finish. I'll try to mimic those specific plays that I have in a game into my drills. So hypothetically, they're doing a one-on-one. They finish to the goal. Keeper grabs the ball and it's a counterattack. How are you going to react, right? So I tell them, hey, counterattack. So boom, they have to sprint all the way back, get the ball, and then do another drill, like a passing drill, turn, and aim to like a midfielder, something like that. You get what I mean? So I like to do a lot of varieties into my drills. I don't like just doing like dribble around a cone and call it a day. No, it's finish, sprint back. 1, 2, 1, 2, finish, go to the corner, cross, get back, stuff like that, Something where like your mind is consistently moving. I like to do that in my drills.
And then when did
Yeah.
you know you wanted to get into coaching or become a trainer?
Honestly, I think it's just because like my college coaches, I see the way that like they were happy, when we won tournaments, we won championships, and them saying like, like it was a true blessing to see the way that you developed, from you were down here and now you're up here, like it was a beautiful experience, I want to be that factor for other kids as well, because I've had terrible coaches too, where they didn't believe in me, they didn't give me the playing time that I deserved, and I just felt like it kind of messed me up mentally, So I want to be that coach to players where they know no matter what they can depend on me, like even if they don't feel like they're doing good in their other teams, that I can be that factor to help them get to where they want to get to, So I feel like it's a great feeling, as a coach to see your players develop. Absolutely.
Then you're a young coach as well, but what advice would you have for another young coach?
That's a really good question. Don't be impatient, because I feel like me at one point when I started my business, with training kids, only training 2 kids a week, I kind of got to my head like, oh, I see these other trainers, they probably have like 50 kids that they're training a day. Um, but just don't give up, to be honest, because it comes like the clients come to you, but you have to be the one who's putting in the work. You can't just expect uploading a video on Instagram with only 5 followers and you're going to get 20 clients in the next day, you actually have to do your own work, So me, I'm very good at networking. So if I coach a parent or a parent's kid, I always tell them, hey, do me a huge favor, take a photo, tag me on your Instagram, I'll repost it, and we can get the word going, I also, what I did as well, because in Downey, there's a lot of local parks. I personally went on my own time to parks when Downey FC was training, BGFC, like where all these parents were at. I went and I told them, hey, I'm a personal coach. I'm starting off. If you're interested, look at my Instagram page. I have my work here. Let's get started with this. And I actually did a pretty big video with 2 of my professional friends, Jonathan Perez and then Alessandro Ramirez. I did like a bunch of videos where I trained them once or twice, I did a compilation video of our session and I told them, hey, repost it. Obviously, they have a really good Instagram and social media platform. So when they reposted, people text me like, hey, you're the one who trained that professional guy. Yeah, I have a kid, XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, bring them on over, So I bring them on over, I train them and yeah, it just goes from there, So it's a blessing, to be able to have that business because I'm able to make my schedule on my own time. And it's kind of like on call. Like right now, literally in 20 minutes, I'm gonna go train a kid right now at the park, because he wants to train. So I'm gonna train with him, make him better, come back home, and then focus on my next one at 6 p.m. So yeah.
And then how has your playing career shaped you as a coach?
It played a really big factor because, like I said, my coaches pushed me to my limits. I literally have a meniscus tear right now and a bruised contusion bone. Because of how hard I trained at Dominguez Hills. And how hard I got hit. But it's all worth it. Because it mentally prepared me very well. It taught me to not give up, to strive for more. To what's it called? To not be content. Our coaches will say a lot. Don't be complacent. Or I remember Eddie Soto specifically said, complacency hinders progress, right? So if you have a good game against Cal State LA, you score a hat trick, cool, you win 3-0, right? And you come into the practice thinking you're there, you're the starter, that, you're a full 90-minute player and that you don't have to do anything else to prove yourself, you're wrong. You have to have that mindset where, okay, I beat this team. I had a great performance. Now, what can I do to keep that consistent for the next training or for the next game? You get what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel like that those little coaches would tell me got to my head a lot, and it made me think, like, yeah, you know what, Chris? Just because you had a good performance doesn't mean it's enough. Like, good isn't good enough anymore at Dominguez Hills. You genuinely have to reach perfection at Dominguez in order to be a starter. So yeah, I'm just blessed that they taught me with those quotes and with those championship mindsets for sure.
And then what made you fall in love with the game?
Yeah, I think it was just all the teams that my dad had put me in at the time. I was playing indoor, I was playing Sunday league, I was playing club, and just watching professional soccer players at the time. Obviously the overpowered Barcelona team playing against Real Madrid. Seeing those players. My idol obviously is my idol is Cristiano Ronaldo, so just watching him play, seeing the way that he, did his goals, he got his accolades, it made me want to be just like that, like how can I be like a player like him, and obviously he emphasizes a lot on health, on nutrition, on routine, on lifestyle, so I try to mimic that and bring it on over obviously to my game in soccer. So I think that's what made me fall in love with the sport, just watching other professional players. And on top of that, just going to soccer games and playing soccer games and watching professional soccer players. Yeah.
I know you touched briefly earlier on your faith. How has your faith in God influenced your football journey on and off the pitch?
Yeah, it influenced me a lot, because there was a lot of rough moments in my soccer career where I was going through it. I wasn't getting my minutes, and I really had to depend on God in order to get where I wanted to get to. I prayed a lot, Sunday churches in the mornings, before my games, or let's say it was an off day, I would pray, and I would just be blessed at the end of the day to be able to touch those galaxy fields, because it's a blessing. Those fields are really nice. The grass is, they clean cut it, they sand it, they water it, they make it look perfect. And just to be able to to play on a field where pro players also play on, like the Dignity Health track and field, the LA Galaxy 2 plays there. The first team also trains there, and then also being able to play in the stadium 4 times, in my year, and then being able to score inside the stadium 2 times, like there's kids out there who don't even touch the soccer field and their team is in last place, so it's just one of those things that I tell God at the end of the day, like, hey, regardless if I play or I don't play, I'm just blessed that I'm able to have this experience, because a lot of my teammates didn't make it out, and there were players out there who were really, really good, they just didn't have the mindset, and obviously they quit, they stopped playing, but me, I kept going, and I think that faith that I have in God and in myself as well, shaped me into the player that I am today. So I'm just obviously blessed at the end of the day to be a religious man.
And then, do you have any life advice for people?
Life advice in terms of soccer, or just in terms of like
Just in
whatever it
general.
is,
Yeah, yeah, just in terms of just in general life.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah. Well, obviously, faith plays a huge role in your life. I feel like that's a piece of advice that I would give people. How to build a lifestyle of faith. Where you can just spend time with God. Talk to Him, be thankful for having food on your plate, having a roof over your head, having family if you do have family. Being able to go to college overall, like me, I didn't spend $1 in college because I had great grades and financial aid, so I'm blessed over that as well. But also to just to take advantage of your opportunities that you get, because me, I like to network, I like to put myself out there, which opened the doors for me a lot. Like my coach put me onto some stadium jobs that I work with at a company called Radworks. So I'm able to work the World Cup this year. It's going to be very exciting. I also work for LAFC, and my coach also helped me to promote my soccer business, like he uploaded it. But it's because, like I said, I took the time out of my day to talk to him. I took my time out of my day to shake a person's hand and actually introduce myself. You have to be the one to speak, because a wise person once told me, closed mouths don't get fed, so you're the one who's supposed to talk and do the networking, and then, opportunities are going to be coming to you, and it's only up to you to take advantage of it. So yeah, that's a piece of advice that I would give.
Perfect. And then I got some quick fire questions for you, bro. What's your favorite genre of music?
Yes, sir. Music, at the moment, I would say bachata. So I'm listening to a lot of Romeo Santos, Prince Royce. Yeah, I'm trying to go to their concert this year.
There you go. Then
Yeah.
what's your go-to like pregame hype song or pregame hype artist?
Premium. Damn, that's a good question. I'd probably say some Drake. I'm not gonna lie, I really like Drake. Yeah, Drake is one of my
Okay.
go-tos, I'd say. Yeah.
And then you touched on
Mhm.
this already, but your favorite club?
Yeah, Real Madrid. Real Madrid and Chivas. My boys know, man. Chivas is the biggest team in Mexico. I don't care, all right? But yeah, Chivas. That's my go-to team. Yes, sir.
Uh, and then who was your footballing idol? I know you mentioned Ronaldo was your favorite player, but sometimes we have different idols that we look up to as footballers.
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, I've always had my eye on Ronaldo. That's always been my go-to. One person that could mimic that player right now would low-key be Erling Haaland. I have kind of
Okay.
studied him and looked at his interviews. And yeah, Erling Haaland. Yeah, I saw a video of him one day. He was like on this like ice bath. There was an ice bath, and apparently
Yeah.
like he just won like player of the match, or like man of the month, something like that, right? And it's like 5 in the morning, and he posts, or like he points at the ice bath, and he's like, you see that trophy, that's motivation. So like he goes
Yeah.
into the ice bath, and he's like, hey, look, even though I got this award, I still have to continue. I have to be consistent. I have to take care of my body. That's motivation, So just because I did that once, I have to do it again. So I feel like, yeah, another player that would mimic somewhat of Ronaldo's mentality would be Erling Haaland. So yeah, I think that's another idol I could look up to. Mhm.
And then, what's your favorite jersey of all time?
Jersey. So actually, I had a friend in the past who gave me a Napoli Maradona collab shirt, and I love
Okay.
wearing it. It's like white, blue, and has like his face right in the Napoli sign. Yeah, I think that's hands down my favorite jersey. Yeah.
And then, what's your favorite number to wear?
I have a variety. So my starting number was 27 at Panthers, which is why I had 27 my freshman year at Dominguez Hills. And then when I went to high school and I played for St. John Bosco, it was 13. So my junior year, I was number 13 at Dominguez Hills. And then overall, my idols number is number 7. So my senior year, I had number 7. Yeah. hmm
Well, that's all the questions I have for you today, bro. It was a pleasure to have you on here, and thank you for taking time out of your day to share your journey with us. It's greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir, boss. Thank you so much, man. It was nice meeting you as well, Julian.
All right. Till next time, Coach Pena.